we're going to go ahead and drop this engine out of here. We're going to crack the cases, split the cases. We're going to split the cases on this. This will be a whole tear down, so we're going to do gas tank, carburetors, the fairings which are off already, radiator, draining it. Like the process you take in dropping an engine alone. So we're going to do this with just regular shop tools. We're not going to be using any special anything for this. 10 millimeter, 14 millimeter, the sprocket, 22. I can't remember exactly. When we get to the sprocket, we'll get to the sprocket. I got a sprocket video up. If you've seen it, check that out. You probably won't have to do what I did, but it's possible. So we'll start with the tank. 10 millimeter bolts. You got 1, 2, 3, 4. And you have your pepcock control here, which on this frame it goes beyond the frame, so you can't get the tank off. So you'd have to remove your one screw, which is already removed, to pull it out. Disconnect your fuel line, and we'll go from there. All right. Get a socket with an extension. That way you're up off your gas tank, you ain't gonna scratch on it. Bolts, get a magnetic tray or whatever you got, put your bolts in. Clamps your seat down. It's just a drain hose. Don't worry about this. It ain't connected to anything. Tank. Next we'll go for the airbox. Get us access to the carburetors, air intakes, and some electrical. We gotta disconnect, vacuum lines, etc. 10 millimeter. You gotta do your air filter or work on your carbs instead of paying someone to do it. Just keep all your bolts in the spot where you know they're at. Mark them if you have to. Air filter, which we're gonna have to change to something better. This is bullshit. More bolts inside. Everybody's gonna be different, but basically they're just saying this binds it to the makes the seal for the carburetors. Then we'll go ahead and do the air intake on both sides. These screws out, air cover comes off. We'll disconnect this breather hose here. Alright, if we're going to do the carburetors, which we're not on this yet, I'd go ahead and take off the baffle, but we're just going to take the carbs off complete. We got to disconnect some fuel lines. Air intake. You got a T here, you might as well take off the main coming in off the pump. After loosening your bolts up, you go ahead and remove it. We're going to leave it together here. We'll disconnect an electrical here. Carburetors. Throttle cable choke, we're going to leave on for what we're doing for now. Set it to the side a little for a moment. And now that we got the carbs off, so we can start working on some electrical connections. We're going to disconnect all the electrical connections. We're going to keep the engine from dropping. So we'll do the obvious ones first. Everything's going to be the same male to female, so you really can't mess it up. All the male-female connectors are pretty much going to be a one-off, so you're not going to have two of the same. The routing is important. Just like your throttle cable, you don't have a bunch of stretch on it. You don't want to have nothing binding up. So we'll start with the electrical connections with the fan for the radiator. We'll pull the coils. These we really don't need to disconnect. That runs your ignition, your front setup. What else is in here? Blinkers, miscellaneous, anything that's connected to the radiator, you gotta disconnect. So I know this is, and there's also one more connection on the other side for the sensor itself. So we'll go ahead and do that. We'll pull the coils first. We'll get this out of the way. We'll work on some other connections down here from the main wire harness. There's also a ground screw that connects to the block. And then we'll go ahead and lift the bike, drain the oil, drain the coolant, while I work on taking the radiator and the exhaust pipe. And we'll be able to drop the engine.